Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's Bebop here. Today's video is going to be about M3 group finder mutations. Now, coming in season 7, you're going to have the option to go into activities. You're going to go to the mutations just like you normally would, and you're going to be able to go into a M3 option. Now, M3s for the new players and people who aren't used to M3s, it's going to be most likely the hardest content in game. The M3s are harder than the Hive and harder than the Sandworm once you learn how to do the Sandworm. So it's going to take a group mindset when you get into these. Don't go into an M3 with the individual mindset. Be ready to be versatile as a DPS player, because you might get in there and there's another bleed rapier. You might need to switch to a spear or whatnot to complement the group. Because if you don't have a main spearman in there with enfeebling skewer, good luck. If you don't have a great axe to group up enemies, all that is just going to be, it can really become a nightmare. So as someone who's run M3s for years and who has speedrun M3s for years, there's some basic things that you're going to need, and that's what we're going to go over here today, just to kind of get you prepared. And I'm going to make it sound like it's the most craziest content in the game, because I want you to go in there with that mindset and be ready to try hard, because it's pretty difficult. Now, with season 7, all the mutations will be one type. So it will be either all ice or all nature or all fire or all void. Now, that mean you have one set for the whole thing, for basically one fits all? No. Each individual dungeon, you will still need a second, possibly third set to maximize your survivability. Let's say in Starstone, well, it's ancient enemies and lost. You have a lost boss that you first fight, and then an ancient last boss. The first lost boss does strike damage a lot. Also, the throw up is nature damage, but that's more of the tank thing. Now, if you're DPS and you're low con, that slam that he does will one-shot you a lot of times. So it's very hard to predict when that's going to happen. If you're not used to it, it can get you killed. So strike protection around 30% is a really good option. I'll go over all the sets here in a bit. And then the last boss, a slash protection amulet, will be really good also. So it's not a big change in Starstone, just very small with those bosses in there. Super simple. You don't really even need a second set. You just throw on the Ami, maybe an earring with whatever protection you need, and go from there. The depths is different, okay? Unlike Starstone, you're going to need at least 2 sets. Okay, so let's say everything's ice this week, right? You go in there with your ice set and you get through all the way to the first boss. Now the first boss is a lot of void damage. Okay, so you will need a void amulet and probably maybe even a full void set to protect yourself, because the mages, when you go to the spot where everything splits up and you got to go disarm the obelisk or whatever it is up there, the mages hit really hard with void damage. Then the final boss is a lot of slash. He also does thrust, and it's a fire damage also, because when he drags the sword on the ground and flies across basically the arena, he leaves a trail of fire on the ground, and you will burn up really fast in that. On that boss, I would suggest, unless you're very experienced with him, you're going to go full ranged on the final boss in depths. Okay. That boss, no one's going to have a problem with you being fully ranged. That guy's been a monster ever since the game came out, so don't even worry about it. But make sure you have a enfeebling skewer, at least skewer them and all that jazz. So, Savage Divide, let's say all ice mutation. Okay, so then when you get to the first and last boss, you need a full opal set. So it will be at least 2 sets for Savage. Let me get into those. I have them equipped right here. Not a need. Let's just say all mutes. All right, will be the ice set that I'll go with. Going bleed rapier. I got my stats set at 258 dex, 350 int, 25 focus, and I put y'all at 50 con. You could maybe go to 75, but if you can't do M3s at those 2, go back down to M2s and practice a little bit more, and then you'll be there. Now, when we go to the first boss in Savage, I switch to this opal set. Now, you want a nature protection amulet for the first boss, because the nature part of that boss fight is the worst out of all of them. I have a lightning one on for the final boss, so when I get to the final boss, I go back to the opal set here, and I have my lightning protection. And you can choose to have arcane or whatever. If you're going ranged, you can adjust that to how you want to play, but it needs to be all opal set for Savage bosses. because there's a lot of different elemental attacks in that boss fight. Even though they're coded light and heavy, it's still void, nature, lightning, ice, fire. In Starstone, once again, the first boss set, if you switch to it, I got to right around 30% strike, 30% ice. You might have to vary this depending on if you're doing a mutation with Frenzied, where you have dots on your back and you're dropping damage on the ground. Then you might have to tailor back some of the strike and keep your ice. The first boss in Depths would be all void. This is what you would do right here. The final boss would be, you don't have to go all fire here. I would definitely probably throw on some slash or whatnot, but if you're gonna go full range, you might as well just go full fire and just sit back. Okay. You could also keep some void on you just in case you get caught up too close to him and he tries to explode on you with the little void attack he does, whatever it's called. But also be ready to take down the monsters when they spawn, because you need to break their stamina so they're stunned, and then kill them really quickly, or else they'll take out the whole group. So it's knowing the dungeons and knowing what boss sets you need. The boss sets are basically independent from the mutation. You need to spec into those and have sets for those to fully maximize your ability to survive. Make sure you have the right ward pots and coatings. Make sure you have your infused, or your Desert Sunrise, your correct food that you may need. And Desert Sunrise is really good to help reduce dots. And now if you're running Angry Earth, if you're running Genesis, then the powerful incense would be better than this, because the protection you get from getting blighted is way better with the powerful incense. Make sure you keep heart runes on you, because you might need to change. If you get in there, too many people are running vines. You don't want 5 people running vines. That's kind of crazy. You keep other gems on you, because people go in there and they don't have the right gems, or maybe they need one for a new weapon or whatnot. You just keep those on you. You can sell them to people in the runs, or give them to people, whatever you want to do. The new thing is that you can actually use these absorption potions, fire, ice, lightning, whatever, while you're running through M3s. Here's Nature 1. You can use this in the hive for the spore area or the final boss fight. But if you use these, they do not take away your ward pot anymore. So stock up on these and get ready to use these, especially the void ones, probably be the most popular one, because the void slicers in some of the dungeons will definitely eat your health up. When you switch off from set to set, let's say we're running the main set here, and then we go to the boss sets, make sure you're keeping your attributes in line. Okay. So if you look here, the boss set, I'm over the 350 in, so I'm still lined up. Got the 25 strength, the 25 con, the rest dex, or the 25 focus, and then the rest dex. And then right here, the main boss set, the main dungeon set, you have it where you need to be for a bleed rapier setup. If you're doing an ice mutation and they'll say they're silenced, sometimes you got to back out. You're not able to stay in sacred, so you're not going to have full health all the time. Make sure you gem your weapons for the appropriate dungeon that you're going into with the appropriate afflictions. I would never be at full health in Savage this week because of the ice, so I would go with a different gem other than a diamond, and this does 16% more damage to enemies below 50% health. And the musket, you do your most health when the enemies are below 50%, really below 30%, but yeah. So that way you can gem your weapons according to the mutation that you're running. Be ready to have different weapons on you, different clothing. You might need to switch from going bleed rapier. If there's another bleed rapier in the group, you might need to switch to going, evade rapier or greatsword or spear. If you don't have a main spearman in the group, you definitely need that. It's the most important. So keep other weapons on you. Get ready to be versatile. Your DPS, you need to be versatile. Another great website is New World Buddy. And no, this is not a ad or anything like that. We're not sponsored here, but New World Buddy is really good for finding any information you need to know about the game. If you look here, you can see what the mutations are, what effects there are, and you can adjust accordingly. So in season 7, let's say they're all ice, you can come down here and be like, oh, we got ice with Frenzy and Savage, or we got ice with Findish and whatever else. Then you can adjust for each dungeon, and it'll help set you up a lot better. If you click over here for M3s, it will also show you how much mutator materia you get for bronze, silver, and gold. And then you can see the different curses or whatnot right here, the different promotion and curses. So you know that the names will have option to have suppressor on them. You also have Mage Hunter, and you will also be double silenced. You will have silence from using abilities. And if you want to know more about this, we can get into that really quickly. All right, we're going to start off with the promotions. We have Barbaric. Enraged. When hit, enemies generate fury. At 20 fury, they become enraged, dealing 50 increased damage and become 15% larger. Then you have Shattering. Enemies forego the 25% reduced stamina damage in expeditions. Enemies deal 40 to 75% increased stamina damage. Additionally, upon breaking your block, they apply a bleed, dealing 5 to 8% base health damage per tick. That is Barbaric. Now we're going to look at another promotion, Savage. Festering. Enemies apply a stacking disease on hit, reducing incoming healing by 2.5 to 5% per stack. They also have Slicers. Enemies cast slicing beams that deal 30% base void damage when touched. Those slices hurt a lot, so the void absorption potions can come in real handy when you come across a named that is dropping those. Keep that in mind. That is Savage. And now we have Indomitable. Vampiric. Enemies heal 20 to 40% of their damage done. Flanix or Flanlanix. Enemies cast a shield that blocks player projectiles. So your ranged players, if there's a shield up with that, you will not be penetrating that shield. Giggity. Now we have Oppressive. This goes to named enemies throughout the dungeon. They may have the following buffs. May have's key term. Mage Hunter. Enemies drain 10 to 20 mana upon being hit. Suppressor. Enemies cast a silence zone on attacking players. So if you come across a named enemy and you hit them, you can usually proc the silence zone away from where you're wanting to melee on the boss, and that way you can at least get through one phase without having to fight in silence. Now we have Frenzied, the most annoying one. Now silence probably is, but unstable. Upon dodging, players are inflicted by nature damage over time effect, dealing 1.5 of the max health worth of damage every second for 10 seconds. Stacks up to 3 times. It cannot be cleansed. Overcharge. When you get the 3 stacks, basically in 10 seconds, you'll drop a big pool of nature damage or whatever the mutation type is, and it does a lot more damage. So when you're in these, a lot of people are like, don't dodge, don't dodge. You're protected against a lot of the damage. Now, it's on the named enemies where you're going to take the most damage. If you are fighting the named enemies and they also drop, let's say, the fire ring or whatnot, that is so hot. If you don't get a skewer onto those named enemies coming up, it's going to be way harder for you. The not dodging is not really a thing here in New World, so you're going to be dodging. You just try to drop your pool of 3 dots away from where your teammates are and away from where the tank is. Now we have Findish, which is probably the best one of all. Weary. It applies Weary to players in combat, slowing their movement by 30% and increasing all damage they take by 20%. This effect can be delayed using abilities, and you can cleanse it using Relentless Rush with a Greatsword. Blood Offering uses abilities and applies a stack of offering, causing 4.5 max health fire damage over time to the player, stacking up 3 times. All player damage has 25% lifesteal while affected with offering. So whenever you have the blood offering going, you do have 25% lifesteal. So if you're out of potions, you just hit the enemies, you'll get plenty of lifesteal. You'll be just fine. All right, another cursed is Censored. It has to be one of the most annoying ones. But if you have a good musket player, you can avoid a lot of this by using abilities before you get into a fight. Anyways, Blowback Void, using abilities depletes a global affliction. You'll see a meter at the top left of your screen. That will basically go, and once it gets to the end, because you're using abilities, then it will trigger Censored on every player. So you want to pay attention to that and kind of get out of the way whenever that's going to drop. Okay, you'll have the silent circles on the ground, and while they're active, all players lose natural mana regen. Standing in the silent zones grants 25% mana per 0.75 seconds. Cannot be cleansed. So if you have Censored like what's in Savage this week, and you have Censored on the name, that's double censored. Super annoying. So hopefully this video will help get you prepared for M3s. If you have any other questions or want to see M3s ran live, come to my Twitch. I stream almost every day. And you can check out also my old speed runs or any runs in M3s that I posted videos on in the past to kind of get yourself prepared on what you're going to need to do. They are difficult. You will get knocked. You will have times that you run them. Even if you play with the best players, that runs just go to shit sometimes. It is what it is. Now, the footage you're seeing here is of a new mod pack I'm playing, Skyrim. This mod pack has over 4,000 mods. It's about a 380 gigabyte download. Yep, 380 gigabytes. But it's a really fun game I play when I'm not playing New World. So if you want to see more of that, feel free to let me know, and you can check out the streams. Y'all have a good day. Later.